Bitcoin is hope.
Mm.
Hope to fix your business, hope to fix your family balance sheet, hope to fix your country. If you want to preserve your wealth, you spread your bets around. But if you're going to diversify in this environment, I think you want to diversify into scarce assets that cannot be devalued based upon currency expansion. If you look at all the wealthiest people in the world, they're not wealthy because they're traders. They're wealthy because they're holders, right? The people that if you owned Facebook for 20 years, then you're Mark Zuckerberg. If you look at every city in the world 100 years ago, you'll find that you would have lost your gold in every city on earth except for Geneva and Zurich. Bitcoin is competing with you buying land, or you buying stock, or you buying gold, or you buying currency and using it to store your value for the next 30 years or more. This is just technology. It's better technology. All you got to do is buy it and wait for the rest of the world to figure it out. Think savings account, checking account. In your checking account, you have dollars and you use that to buy coffee and you use that to pay your bills this month. Your savings account is a store of value. You want that to go up in value over time or hold value. In America, people would never save their money in a savings account in dollars because it yields 0% interest. And the S&P index is up 40% over the last 12 months. And so if you actually saved in dollars, you lost 40%. So you would move your money into the S&P index fund, into an ETF, into the stock market. And if you had done that, you would get 40% appreciation. Now, that's not because the stocks are 40% better. That's because the dollar is 40% weaker. So the currency is being devalued. So scarce assets are going up in price against the devaluing currency. So stocks are an asset. Now, what if you don't live in the US? What if you live in Venezuela or Argentina or Zimbabwe? How do you buy the S&P index? You can't. So what do you buy? You buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going up faster than the S&P. It's gone up 280%, not 40% in the last 12 months. Ultimately, when the dust settles, even if all these countries collapse and their currencies collapse, what's likely to happen is everybody gets an Android phone, they get digital wallet, they get US dollar stable coins, and then they have Bitcoin, and that becomes their checking account, their savings account. The economy clears. If I need to move Bitcoin fast, I move it on a lightning rail. And if I want to move it slow but securely, I move it on the blockchain. And in that environment, you can synchronize 8 billion mobile wallets with 100 million companies using Bitcoin as the underlying settlement protocol and using either Lightning or as some centralized protocol as a transactional protocol at the application layer.
How will other countries benefit from China's latest move on the banning of Bitcoin and mining? You mentioned something very interesting also, that when countries would collapse, do you see it at a point where more and more countries will follow El Salvador over the next few years? Or do you see more countries lining up towards China, that they'll be more restrictive towards Bitcoin?
I think that China has capital controls. They don't let you convert your Chinese currency freely to dollars and move it outside the country. So there's the Great Wall of China, and they've set up that wall for capital. And the Great Wall of China also exists for internet. And they don't let you use Facebook. They blocked Facebook, they blocked Google, and they blocked Twitter. And they block a lot of websites. So this is very consistent. Just like China blocked Twitter and Google and Facebook, they're concerned about Bitcoin because Bitcoin would be freedom outside their country. I don't think it's threatening to Bitcoin in the least. Because, I mean, look at Google, right? If China blocks Google, does that stop Google's success? No. I mean, Facebook's worth $1 trillion, Google's worth $1 trillion, Apple's worth trillions. I mean, and all those and Twitter is worth quite a lot. because if China blocks it, it makes it actually more powerful in Western Europe and the United States and the rest of the world. So, so that's what's happening there. The profitability of Bitcoin mining is somewhere between tripled and quintupled, right? Because the hash rate on the network has been cut by 65% or 60%, which means that all the remaining miners are getting 2.5 times as much revenue. They've doubled their revenues, but their costs have stayed the same. And so in any business, if I doubled your revenues and your costs were the same, if you were running a 30% margin before, when I double your revenues, you're running a 65% margin and your operating income triples or quadruples. So Bitcoin mining has become much more profitable because China shut it down. It's a disaster for China. It's $1 trillion mistake. I mean, they had 60% of the market in a business that was growing 100% a year, that was going to go to $100 trillion or more. So giving up all of that, right, is awful for the country. But I guess, but the nation has made other $1 trillion mistakes, like, I mean, blocking people from infinite free information from Google, right? There's an economic cost to those things. They did it. It's not good for Bitcoin miners in China. They have to leave. It's a tragedy for them. I feel bad for them. And it's driving a decentralization of the Bitcoin network. So Bitcoin holdings are decentralizing. All the people that own Bitcoin in China had to sell it at a massive discount. And the people in the west of the world got to buy it at a discount. And all the Bitcoin mining equipment is going to all these other countries, where it will be a massive revenue generator for them. So generally, I think it's good for Bitcoin long term. I think it's driving volatility near term. But this is one of the reasons why you don't really want to, you don't want to look at the price. I mean, if you're a trader, you can trade on it. You can go long when there's long leverage and go short. But I just think most of the time traders, if you look at all the wealthiest people in the world, they're not wealthy because they're traders. They're wealthy because they're holders, right? The people that if you owned Facebook for 20 years, then you're Mark Zuckerberg. Name a person that traded Facebook stock and shorted it. I can't name a billionaire that made billions because they shorted Amazon and they shorted Facebook and they shorted Apple. Everybody can name billionaires that owned Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook.
I want to ask this question for regular employees, people who have money that they can allocate. If you were in their position and they're just starting out right now, what would be your style and strategy to accumulate Bitcoin? And portfolio strategy wise, what percentage would be a good enough amount that they could actually start with as well?
You can't go wrong with dollar cost averaging. Like, our company sweeps our cash flows into Bitcoin. We have a certain amount of cash that we keep as working capital that we know we need to pay bills for the year. And then long-term capital that we don't need to pay our bills, we invest in Bitcoin as it comes available. I think that everyone has their own investment strategy. It makes sense to allocate some portion of your capital to land, real estate you want to live in the rest of your life. If you have someplace, a home, right? It makes, if there's a business that you love, maybe you have some capital in a business that you believe in. If there's scarce property that you think will be valuable 20, 30 years from now and you want to own it, I think Bitcoin is the apex property of the human race. I think it's the best property long term. And so I lean toward buying more of that. If you want to be rich, if you want to make a huge amount of money, then you have to acquire a lot of a high quality asset and hold it, right? Right. The way that billionaires get rich is they either bought $1 billion, they bought $1 million worth of something and held it and went up by a factor of 1,000, or they created that asset. Like Jeff Bezos created Amazon stock. So they tend to be very concentrated in something. So if you want to make huge amounts of money, you have to place a bet on something, right? Whatever it might be. Howard Hughes bought all of Vegas. You place a bet. If you want to preserve your wealth, you spread your bets around. But if you're gonna diversify in this environment, I think you want to diversify into scarce assets that cannot be devalued based upon currency expansion.
Would it just be prudent, based on your current statements, that they just primarily focus on Bitcoin being the apex cryptocurrency, being the most dominant one, than smaller altcoins, or the ones that you can put smart contracts on top of it?
I think that Bitcoin is digital property, and it's the least risky, highest upside. If Bitcoin is digital property, then there are 21 million blocks in cyber Manhattan, and each Bitcoin is a block. When you buy a Bitcoin, you're buying a block in cyberspace. And cyber Manhattan is the most desirable city in the world to live or to do business in, because everybody can live there. One day, billions of people want to live in cyber Manhattan. It's better than Manhattan because Tokyo and Beijing and Paris and London compete with Manhattan. But everybody in France, Germany, Russia, Japan, they could all live in cyber Manhattan. So if you're a business person and you had a choice, you could buy 20 city blocks of Manhattan 200 years ago. Would they still be worth money today?
A lot.
Yeah, because Manhattan was the greatest city in America, right?
Agree.
And so what if you could buy all the buildings on those city blocks 200 years ago? Would they still be worth money today? How many buildings in Manhattan have been standing for 200 years that people still live in and do business in?
Oh.
Buildings only last 50 years. What if you could buy a business in Manhattan 200 years ago? How many businesses that were there 200 years ago are still operating today? So if you think about the crypto world, you've got digital property, and Bitcoin is that apex property. It's like just buying a block of cyber Manhattan in granite in cyberspace. Okay, you can build anything you want on it. There are digital currencies like stable coins. They're just emulating the dollar and the euro. There's no upside in those. So there's no point in buying those. They're not investments. They're going to devalue 20% a year or 10% a year. You can buy digital applications, the proof of stake networks, the smart contract networks. Those are applications. They're either platforms or they're businesses on the platform. So you should think about them as you're either buying the block in Manhattan, south of Central Park, or you're buying the building on the block. That's a platform like Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain or like, and you can put anything in that building. Yeah, you can put a discotheque, you can put an insurance company, you can put a bank, you can put a restaurant, you can put apartments, and then, or you're buying the business, the restaurant, the casino. Okay, businesses, you might make a fortune. They're very sexy. You have to understand the casino business. Do you understand the insurance business, the banking business, the casino business? If you understand those businesses, maybe you can launch. Those are easy to launch, by the way, right? They come and they go fast. They might last 5 years. They might last 50 years. The building's probably good for 50 years, but you're going to have to rebuild it because there aren't many buildings that they don't tear down and rebuild every 50 years. 100 years is a long time, and then the city block, the blocks will be there for 1,000 years. Cyber Manhattan will probably outlast Manhattan. So when you're investing in Bitcoin, you're buying property. When you're investing in another crypto, you're buying a business or you're buying a cyber building or cyber platform. And you're competing with Square and PayPal. You're competing with the Lightning Network. You're competing with Fidelity and JP Morgan. And maybe you'll win. If you're an entrepreneur and you start that business to compete with Fidelity and you grow by a factor of 100, then you'll have won, but then you'll lose, right? You see what I mean? So the issue is, are you a venture capitalist? And if you're a venture capitalist, maybe you invest in VC, but you have to study them very carefully. What percentage of mobile apps beat Instagram on the iPhone and the Android phone? You know, if you buy Instagram, you'll make billions of dollars. And if you buy Instagram competitors, there's 1 out of 1,000 that made some money and the other 999 lost everything.
Wow.
Right? So you can be a venture capitalist, you can be an investor. You got to study it. What kind of pool of money do you have? I think Bitcoin is this bucket of property. I want to take this money and keep it for 100 years and not lose it. I don't want to express a bet. Like if you had bought all of Manhattan 100 years ago, would you have lost money? No, right? But if you had bought, you know, half the businesses in Manhattan 100 years ago, would you have made money? I don't know. You have to watch it every year, right? I mean, you're making an active investment decision. You have to. So the issue is, are you doing a passive investment, like just buying the index, or are you doing active investment and taking investment risk? That's the way to think of it.
You mentioned about Bitcoin being massively better than gold. And a lot of people have been pegging Bitcoin to surpass the market cap of gold in years to come. What do you think will possibly trigger that? And for that to happen, that's a huge amount of funds coming in also to buy Bitcoin at a certain price.
Well, I think Bitcoin's been going up 120% a year for a decade. Gold's been going up 1% a year. It is happening. This year, Bitcoin was up 280% and gold was up 0%. It is happening. I think it's just a continual trend. Bitcoin is getting stronger. It's everybody understands it is. Every time someone sets up a crypto account, you know, they're probably buying Bitcoin with it. There are 2 to 3 million people a week. The spread of mobile phones, the spread of digital wallets, the spread of crypto is the spread of Bitcoin and the demise of gold. Just a matter of time. It's being demonetized in front of our eyes. In the last 12 months, Bitcoin is up 293% and gold is down 2%.
No.
Okay, so is that, and by the way, the S&P is up 39% and NASDAQ is up 47%. The market telling you that we printed a lot of money, the currency devalued, and the store of value that people went to was the S&P 500 index, big tech stocks, and Bitcoin. And no one decided to take their money and buy gold, right? I mean, it's happening in front of your eyes. Gold is a disaster this year. How is it possible that we increased the money supply by 20 or 30% or 40% and gold went up 0? That tells you that the marketplace thinks there's no utility in gold as a store of value.
Got it.
Lumber went up better. You would have been more successful investing in lumber, corn, soybeans, oil, anything, land. Single family homes went up 24%, right? Everything's a better store of value than gold. The only thing that did worse than gold was bonds, you know, buying bonds when the interest rates were at the 50-year low. They were even more overvalued than gold.
To put this to a close, any final words for people from Asia regarding investing in cryptocurrencies, and in general, any words of advice for the next generation of investors?
First of all, I mean, Bitcoin is digital property. It's the winner. I mean, it's the dominant digital property network. It's had 12 years to work that out. It's the most widely held property asset and monetary asset in the world, other than the dollar and the euro. And the dollar and the euro are losing value. So if you're looking for an asset that's appreciating in value that could, Bitcoin is the most widely held one. Second, everybody ought to do their own homework. Bitcoin is hope. Hope to fix your business, hope to fix your family balance sheet, hope to fix your country. That's why I took the domain hope.com and I dedicated it to all things Bitcoin. So if you want to do research on Bitcoin and you go to hope.com, HOPE, you'll see courses on Bitcoin, books on Bitcoin, research on Bitcoin, videos on Bitcoin, news on Bitcoin, all the podcasts, all the leaders of Bitcoin. So that's a great place where it's free, great place to get educated. Otherwise, feel free to follow me on Twitter. I'm Michael_Saylor on Twitter. And I wish everybody the best.
Such an honor to have you, Michael, in the show. And I hope that this was something that was very, very insightful to all of you, to everyone watching this. If you guys have any questions for Michael, put them in the comment section below and we'll try to answer them maybe in the future. And I'll put the links also in the description below for MicroStrategy, hope.com, and Michael Saylor as well on Twitter. So to everyone watching this, I hope that this was something very, very insightful to all of you. And I hope that this is something that gave you the confidence to invest more on Bitcoin. So that's it for now. This is Marvin Germo. I hope this video helps you trade well, trade strong, trade smart. See you all again soon, guys, and God bless you all.